Welcome to another episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. And we have a returning guest, although we're going to talk about some other things. We have Rachel Matos. How are you, Rachel?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's so lovely to see. I actually am always excited when I get to see your face and everything because that always means that there's good things going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I relate you. Like, I'm like, oh, Rachel's doing something. She said, oh, it's good stuff that's gonna
Yeah.
be
It's like
coming
I
down.
noticed like on social I can go pretty quiet for a while and then I come out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yes. Well, totally am excited to talk about all of the things. Because so those of you who we're not gonna go fully into Rachel's story from previous because if you want to hear it, I'm gonna put her previous recording in the show notes. So if you want to hear her whole backstory and everything, head over there, right? Head over there. And if you don't, then that's fine because let me tell you a little bit about Rachel. She is a Latina strategist, speaker. She is the CEO of Refined Media Group, which is an agency specializing in intentional culture forward brand strategy. She has a background in the arts as a former museum curator and early digital pioneer. She's led campaigns for brands like McDonald's, Kia, Dove, Neutrogena, and Verizon. So her work encompasses a lot of things: art, culture, media, empowering women to show up online with clarity and presence. And then she recently launched a personal brand focused on quiet leadership, content clarity, and a digital strategy with the soul, girl.
Yeah.
Where is that soul? I'm telling you. Let me share before we get into all of the chisme that were the updated chisme of the Refined Media Group. I don't know if I'm sure you're probably in the middle of your workday, so I'm sure you're not having some wine, but what are you drinking
I
today?
was thinking I was gonna grab something. I was like, it's a little early right now. I'm in
It's
that
5 o'clock. Hey, if we're on the East Coast, it'd be 5:30.
I'm in that perimenopause thing where I have to be very careful with the wine that I drink because
Mhm.
it starts giving me like heart palpitations and yeah,
Oh my
it
God.
really sucks. There are some wines I can drink, but I was looking at the bottles here and I was like, I don't think any of those will be sub like no wine today.
Oh my God. You know what's crazy is that I think I skipped all that. Well,
Lucky.
I mean, I think I was starting perimenopause, but also because of all of the womb issues that I've had, it really kind of, and I have all of the doors open because I want some air. So if you hear things in the background, I live
Mm,
right under the flight path, uh,
okay.
and I'm right by the airport. So if you hear that, that's why. But obviously, my menopause was um, medically induced because I had to have a full hysterectomy in November.
Mm, mm.
And but I definitely went through all of the moody, like I don't want to say moodiness, all the emotions of it, and
Yeah.
still every once in a while. But it didn't ever affect my wine drinking.
Yeah, I love margaritas and I have to drink so much water just to enjoy one margarita and be super hydrated. If not, I'll be up all night. I'm like, this sucks. This really
So
sucks.
crazy. I have another friend who same thing with her. She really like, especially going through perimenopause and everything, she like couldn't really drink anymore or could only drink certain things, but wine she had to pretty much cut out. And I know everybody's different, so we're not saying that this is going to happen for
Not
you.
everyone, but yeah, that's the
Yeah.
reason why I didn't grab a glass of wine. So,
Yes. Well, today I am having seis soles. We love our seis soles.
mm,
Colibri wine, and it has, it might be a little, oh, well, let's see. Has like a hummingbird on it. I have my background on blur, so it is a 2022 Caringan wine. So it's such a good wine. And I decided to pop this bottle because we're gonna have pizza for dinner. I went and stopped and got some
mm,
pizza because I was like, I am not cooking today. And this will go well with it. So salud, Rachel.
Salud. Enjoy for me.
Oh, I will enjoy for you. It's so good. We love Soles. It's wines out of Lodi, Latino owned, if you don't already know. Latino owned. And then he has a tasting room in downtown Orange. So I love it. Girl,
Mhm.
I am so like so much has changed since we last talked. I mean,
Yeah.
you're still doing your thing, but a lot of things have changed.
Mhm.
And I want to just kind of go back because obviously last time we were talking about you kind of always had multiple businesses. Even if
Well,
you were
I had the agency since 2018.
Mhm.
And then when we spoke, wasn't it in the middle of COVID?
I think so. I think it was
COVID,
2020.
I was also like in a partnership with the company was called My Cajita,
Mhm.
which during COVID was great because a lot of people were doing the subscription boxes at the time.
Right.
But it is hard, because I work with brands and we do campaigns. I have to, I really realized I have to really focus on the agency, which was like, something that I've been building. So now it's just the agency.
So I love that because I think people, as human beings, we hate to fail, right?
Hmm.
We hate to like, okay, that's not working how I wanted to. It's
Yeah.
time to close the door. Sometimes we're like, no, I just need to work harder.
Mhm.
Sometimes you just have to learn what you need to learn from that
Yeah.
in order to grow. So,
Hmm.
how did that happen for you? Because obviously, you're doing so amazing with Refined Media Group, and I know you did some rebranding and everything as well. But, like, how did that, like, how did you feel when you're like, okay, it's time for me to step away from this and to
Yeah.
focus on this?
I just think there was a difference in just creative vision, and what I would have liked to have seen with the service. And then because the landscape was changing, it's like once things started opening up, the way that subscription boxes were of interest was just not the same. So I just felt like and I had all these things going on with the agency, so I had to talk to a few friends and get some advice and like, am I making the right decision? Ultimately you have to feel it in your gut and you have to feel it in yourself. But I asked a few friends who would had some, experience that they could share. And then I just made the decision. I just felt like it wasn't for me anymore. And I went right ahead with the agency with a lot more focus because your time is being split up.
Yeah. No, I mean, for you to really even realize that, because like I said, I feel like as humans, we're like, no, 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 no.
Hmm.
But just knowing you the little bit that I do, I feel like you're very intentional with your moves. So you're very intentional with what you were starting with Mi Cajita, and then when it was time to leave, you were I bet you I wouldn't doubt that you wrote a pros and cons list.
I had my list of what like, and we had meetings and conversations, and it wasn't something that I just impulsively did. So yeah, you'd be right. I had a list.
I mean, look, I don't know you super, super well, but I've met you in person and we've
Mhm.
talked enough where I'm like, I bet you she had a list.
And
I know
you
she
were
didn't
at
close
one of our
everything.
events, and I'm very like, I like things to have a purpose and for people to just feel a certain way when they experience something that we're doing or putting together. So I'm just very particular about those things, and it's just best that I know that about myself, that I have the agency and it's mine and it's like a creative vision that I have. And so I just know what suits me. And some partnerships work and some don't, and that's fine. That's okay. They're really good learning experiences.
Yeah. Now you've worked with some major brands.
Hmm.
I've been fortunate to be at a couple of events for Kia.
Hmm.
Which let me tell you, those new Kia EVs are so
Right.
freaking low. This is not sponsorship by Kia,
I
by the way. But if
no,
they
but they
want to
are.
sponsor me, they're more than welcome to.
No, I love their cars. I bought one.
Did
I bought
you?
one. I bought the Sportage. After doing the programs with them, I'm like, I really like these cars. So
Yes.
yeah.
Well, I will say what before I had ever been to an event of yours when I was still living in Texas, I had a Kia Sorento. I had a
Oh, okay.
2006 Kia Sorento. And
Hmm.
girl, I or 2000, yeah, I think I got it in 2005. It was a 2006. Let me tell you, I freaking like towards the like there were some things towards the end I just couldn't, I wasn't making enough money to like upkeep,
Yeah.
but I had that car for 12 years
Wow.
and
Oh, that's a good car.
it was so good to me.
Hmm.
And literally until the day where it just could not run anymore, I had that car. Right. Till the day where, and it would have probably run longer if I was able at that point in my
Hmm.
life to be able to afford the things that, again, just normal upkeep. But
Hmm.
sometimes those normal upkeeps, when you get higher end mileage, is not, it's
Yeah.
expensive,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So, and then to see these updated versions of Kia, they are so freaking like luxury.
Right. Yes, it feels like you're in a luxury car. And I think that's the whole thing, and that's why when we create these events, we keep that in mind, that it's like it's an affordable car, but they do want you to feel that way. When you're in the vehicle, they want you to feel like, you're treating yourself, even though it's technically an affordable car. So with the events, I try to bring that to life. It's like they're the Rolls Royce of the affordable cars, and so we want to make sure that people feel that. So like you went to the beach cleanup, it was a beach cleanup, but we had like a really beautiful brunch, and I try to bring those worlds together where it's a car that you have access to, but also when you go in, you can see just how much care is put into the car, so much artistry and innovation with the cars, that I think they're doing a great job.
And the only reason I can speak on these particular things is because I was there, right? In regards
Mhm.
to the coffee walk that you did in
Oh
San
yeah.
Diego and the beach cleanup that you
Mhm.
did in Seal Beach. But I will say one thing that I really noticed, and I know again, I know you're intentional with this. So is in regards to, like you said, bringing culture to these big brands.
Mhm.
So when you talk to these big brands and when they're telling you what they envision, are you bringing the culture in, or are they coming to you saying, no, we want to ensure that, the culture is brought into it?
Um, it depends. With Kia, it was a little different. I have my cat here. If you see a big giant fur ball, it's my cat. With Kia, it was a little different. We're the first lifestyle partnership, agency partnership that they've had. So I work with their PR department, and we were looking at multicultural, but how? I personally, I get why we have a lot of these campaigns during Hispanic Heritage Month or Day of the Dead, but we're here all year long, and we're
Exactly.
consumers all year long. And I want us to be seated at the table where they're talking about bigger picture things like sustainability. When you think about it, we have, our ancestry is all about sustainability. It's like, we as a culture can bring so much to that conversation. Like we did
How
this.
many things of butter do you have
Yeah,
that are not full of butter?
exactly. Just as a culture, in modern culture, like abuelas, but also our indigenous culture, I feel like it's just rooted in who we are. So for us to be part of that conversation, that's what I want. I'm like, we're more than Cinco de Mayo, guys. Like we're more than these tent poles that they have in the marketing world, and that's what I want to bring. That it's that we're part of that conversation. So when I say, that yes, our work is very intentional and it's nuanced, then I want us to be part of that, what they're talking about in the bigger picture.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, when you think about the timing of these things, they weren't around that time because you're absolutely right. There's so many of us who say, like, do we appreciate some of these companies like doing stuff during Hispanic Heritage Month or but you're absolutely right. How many of us say, but we're here all year long.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't need to be like, and it wasn't Kia, but I think maybe it was like GM this was several years ago, where they're
Mhm.
like, oh, when it was a white family looking out their window and they're like, oh, it looks like the Martinez has got a new car and da 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 da.
Mhm.
And people don't realize, okay, you guys are hearing a break right here, and I will explain because I thought there was another fire and I got PTSD. And so that totally threw my mind off track. And so I'm like, ah, what was the last thing I said? So if we double back on something, that's why, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
Um, so I know that you were saying we were talking about every day, right? Oh yeah, yeah, the car commercial. That's what we were talking about, the car commercial. And to me, I think it was GM. I can't remember, but I just remember how much that impacted me. That it was just their neighbors happened to be Latinos, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't like very this because I feel like sometimes brands think that we have completely different needs,
Yeah.
and they try to curve to that so hard. That's and instead of just integrating us. But
Mhm.
now we're on this, and so I do have a question. So now we're on this whole thing with this administration and DEI. DEI is not what they think it is, but they think it's some sort of. So are you sensing any changes between brands, and what are you sensing, and how is that unfolding?
So the brands, behind the brands, there's just regular people just doing their job, and they're feeling the shift. And so obviously that's a domino effect with everybody else. And from what I've gotten, some of them don't even know what they're going. They're like, we don't know what to do. Actually, it kind of left a lot of people for a while there unsure of, do we allocate this money? Do we not? Do we not have this money anymore? So there was definitely a disruption. Um, and some brands, I really have to prove why they want to target Latinos with data, which I always provide data, but like I really have to be serious and front and center with the data now. Even brands that I've worked with and they know the data, because they still have to have approvals, and they still have to try to get the funds. So I have to be very intentional with the data. Like, this is why you want to target this Latina audience or Latinos or um and then you have other brands that were just afraid to spend any money. They're like, we won't know anything until next year. Like right now, we're just pausing everything. So that has impacted a lot of things for people. And then you have brands that are like, no, we're still committed. Like, we're gonna get the money. We'll figure it out. Some people are saying the DEI budget was too small anyway. So it's been case by case. So they are using other funds, other means, or money that they've already had, and we just have to make a case for it. But it's
So
still something that's evolving as we go along. It's just really brand to brand at this point, from what I'm seeing when I do speak with different people.
and obviously that impacts what's put out to the community, but obviously it impacts you personally
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
any staff that you have. So how are you navigating that right now?
So I had to restructure, um, because it was, like I said, a domino effect. There was a huge brand, and they pulled back on media buys, and that impacted my agency partner. And I had a collaboration with my agency partner, and then that impacted me and the team that I had set for that account. And so it just was like, and I really, really tried to just continue to keep my team on, because I have such a supportive, loyal team. They're hardworking, and it just pains me, to say, you know what, guys, like, I think we're gonna have to pause. I can't sustain this without that. And that client is also going through it. So we had to restructure, and now I just have more project-based team. So as they come in, I'll put the team together. But I had a team on payroll, like, it was a whole thing. And so I'm like, okay, we'll restructure and we'll just figure it out as we go along. I feel like just like anything, the pendulum will swing and it'll come back around and it'll be different. But we are resilient, strong people. We will figure it out. And um, I think we're going to come out on top. And I feel that way anyway. I feel like, okay, it's just another bump in the road, but we're
So
here. We're not going to stay quiet. So,
right. Girl,
right.
that's for dang
Yeah.
sure. We will
So
not stay quiet.
we'll make it happen. Like, that's it.
So when that was happening, how did that impact you just personally? And like maybe not necessarily financially, but obviously that hits everything else, right? That hits you
Mhm.
mentally, emotionally. Like how did that affect you? I mean, I hear the PR answer.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
know that you truly, and I truly believe in what you're, but at that moment, sometimes it's just not that clear and
I
not
was a
that,
I was hearing this in January. Where are we in July?
yeah.
Um, I tried to sustain for months. Um, I was first nervous. Then when the reality started to really hit, I was very upset and hurt. I was very hurt because the hardest thing I think for a business owner is to have to let people go. Like that's so hard to do because not only do you think like, oh, what about the work that they're doing for my business, but I'm thinking like they're a mom or they're a dad, they have a family. I start worrying about their needs, like just not even as an employee, just like as just they're just good people. So it was really upsetting, and I cried, and and it was hard to write those emails and make those calls. Um, they know that I really tried, but I worked my butt off to try to find them other opportunities. So I did stay up, as long as I needed to, emailed everybody, messaged everybody that I knew within my, community. And fortunately, a couple of them have been able to transition into another full-time job. So I'm like, whew, like I feel like, but yeah, I mean, I just felt like I just wanted to have their back as much as I could.
Yeah. I'm sure like I'm not at the point with my business in regards to any like to hire staff full time or anything, but
Mhm.
even like right now I'm editing the podcast myself. But even right now I used to have an editor who out of Mexico City and I try and use him when I can. But
Mhm.
even that I'm like I'm so sorry right now. I just don't have the funds
Mhm.
to spend this extra on the editing and that makes me feel bad because I want to be able to, because then that means I'm doing good,
Right.
right? If I'm doing
Mhm.
good, then yes, I want to be able to
Yeah.
share that. And when you're
Mhm.
not, I can't, I can only imagine as of right now, like when that happens, how much you take that to heart because this is your
Mhm.
business. These are people that you've grown close to, that you depend
Yeah.
on, that you lean on. And now you're like, okay,
Like,
guys, yeah, this is happening. When
mm,
people are asking you outside of brands, are you but do you mostly work with large brands? Because you do, I know, a lot of activation events.
mm.
So are you doing out things outside of the activations
I
that
do work with personal brands, with small businesses that are trying to build their digital footprint, and who would like to have brand partnerships. So I do help them set things up in a way that they'll be ready to start pitching brands. I've done that since the beginning of the agency. We have a client right now. She's an actress. Her name is Zulay Hanau, and she has a platform called Modern Muse, which we just took over. Yeah.
yeah, I know Modern Muse.
Yeah. So if you notice, it's a little different in there. We just took over that account. And, I think Zulai is a beautiful person. She has wonderful intention for the Latina community. Because, you heard what happened with We All Grow. And so many women were like, well, where are we going now? Where do we go? There are still tons of thriving Latina communities that really care about uplifting and building the community. They're there. And so we're working on Modern Muse so that it is eventually will become a larger community, focusing a lot more on wellness and the soft life and not, like getting stuff done, but not doing it, with the struggle mentality,
Yeah.
which, you know,
It's hard to get out of. I'm
yeah,
not gonna lie, it's hard to get out of it.
yeah,
Sometimes, you know, I have to reframe what I'm saying because if I don't reframe it, then I'm just speaking it into existence in a way that I don't want,
yeah.
right?
I know like a word growing up out here, luchando, like that word. I don't know if that's just a very Puerto Rican word, but it was just this like, just working and,
Yeah.
like, but it was seen as this like badge of honor. And I get it, many of our family members have had to work very hard for survival. Um, but I think many of us who do have the opportunities and the resources, we still have the mindset of survival, because it's so close to us.
Yeah.
And so I think, with modern muse, those are the types of things that we're going to start talking about, and that, see if we can just reframe that narrative.
So I always see these people on Instagram and TikTok. Do you want to be a creator? Do you want to work with brands? Blah, blah, blah,
Mhm,
blah, blah. Right. And I never go on them because I'm like, well, of course I want to work with brands, but I'm also like, I have to personally work with people I trust.
yeah.
Right. Like
Mhm,
I don't want to buy your course because I don't know what you're gonna say. Like, I don't want to buy your course. I
mhm,
know enough people where I'm like, if I want, if I have the funds, I know I could hire them and they would
mhm,
fight, like they would work with me, not.
mhm,
But when you're seeing these things or you see people give quote unquote tips to
mhm,
work, what are the things that you're seeing that are like, okay, yeah, that's something I would say? Or what are the things that you're like, do not fall for this? Because I feel like so many more people, especially now,
mhm,
especially in the environment that we're in, people are becoming more afraid to walk out their door, or they're becoming
yeah.
like maybe they've gotten laid off and they don't know where to go next. And so they're
Mhm.
like, oh, I want to do this thing. So, what are the things that you're seeing that you're like, no, girl, no. Molly, you in danger, girl, versus yes, that's what you need to do.
Do you mean to build a career as a content creator?
Whether it's a content creator or whether it's just connecting with community and building their community, or whether it's, working with brands, because now you have this whole other thing that people are doing in regards to UGC
Right.
and, not having to have a bunch of followers. And so kind of however you feel best to answer that question. I know I just kind of vomited a
No,
lot.
it's
Wine break. Time to refill that glass and come back for more Wine and Chisme. Hola, Wine and Chisme familia. If you're loving this conversation, don't let it end here. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Wine and Chisme for behind the scenes moments, wine recommendations, and daily doses of chisme between episodes. And if you don't already know, we bring these conversations to YouTube as well. Subscribe to our channel so you can see the full experience, the laugh, the tears, the wine pours, and those moments when the chisme gets real. Plus, don't miss out on our bi-weekly Spill the Chisme newsletter. Get exclusive content, wine picks, and all the chisme delivered straight to your inbox. Head to thewineandchismepodcast.com to subscribe or just DM me the newspaper emoji on Instagram and I'll hook you up. Your support helps us amplify more voices and share more stories that matter. Now, let's get back to this conversation because it's about to get even better.
No, I was just thinking. So one person who I really like, and I actually bought her products. Her name is Sina Port. I just think she has a really good message. She talks about, being feminine in business, and how lucrative of an approach that can be. You don't have to be, again, with the masculine energy, super alpha. Like, we have to, I think, tapping into our own femininity to make the best business decisions. I really like her message. She has a program called, it's the garden mentorship, where it's basically you're building your own garden, and then people will come, instead of the chasing, which a lot of messaging out there is this chasing, chasing, chasing. I get that. You definitely want to go after a sale. But what I like about her approach is that you tell your why, you tell your story, you're sharing things that you've learned along the way, but she does it in a way that she's not just blabbing out all of her personal life. She's doing it in a way that's very intentional, very thought out, like these are the things that I did and this is where I'm at now. I think she just has a really healthy approach for social media, and she has a nice following that she's developed with that. And it's not like an uncommon theory. There are a lot of creators and marketing people who are really suggesting that you're just creating the content, you're documenting and sharing your journey, as opposed to like you need these 5 hooks to go viral, you need to do this to go viral, and it's just like but how, but you don't even know why. Like you need to just figure out first why you're doing this. What is it that you want to teach people? What community do you want to build? There's a ton of questions you need to ask yourself first before you start worrying about hooks and going viral and posting 25 times a day on TikTok. And that may work for some people, but you know, if you hear a
Yeah.
cat meowing,
Your son's back with the cat.
my son is back with the cat. The cat was in the at the doctor and she's in a cage and she's not happy.
Well, speaking of your son, just a quick veer
Mhm.
off, he's doing his own thing on
Yeah.
social media now as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
Um, and because I had already seen pictures of your son the first time he popped up with what is it? Latinos Create? Is that what it is?
He's with it's a platform called Nuestro Stories.
Nuestros Stores. I couldn't
They're
remember. I know
actually
there was two different ones,
client.
so I couldn't remember.
They're a client of ours.
Oh, nice.
So I, oversee all of the content for that platform. And my son and Marlene Luna, she's an actress and filmmaker out here in Los Angeles, and the both of them, they do like the front facing, history snippets. We also have a lot of reshares on there, but you will catch my son on there. He is doing that. I think it's been really good for him because my son is a Yo no Sabo, and, and some of the stuff that he's had to put together for this has helped him learn a lot about not just his own Latino roots, but also how we're the same and different amongst the different countries and stuff. So it was a really big learning experience for him. But he's an
Yeah.
actor, yeah.
That's awesome. No, and I'm sure he's seen a lot and goes a lot by what you've led in his life.
It's true, but it's been tough because we're not. I'm from New York. My family's in New York,
Mhm.
and we're here. So he didn't have like the abuela and the tias that I grew up with.
Oh, yeah.
So he did hear a lot of Spanish growing up when he was younger in New York. But being here, we did lose a bit of that, and I will blame myself for some of the Yo no Saboness. And then later on in high school, we like really pushed like take Spanish so that way we can like get this back. But yeah, it's
But that doesn't I think it's so important, and I'm so glad he's learning not just more about his own culture, but other
hmm
Latinidad, of other countries and everything. But I think it's also important to, I think our audience is very aware of this, but knowing Spanish doesn't, make you any more or less Latino, right?
Yeah,
If it's
but
in
he
his
grew up with it without even
yeah,
knowing. He just didn't even know
because that was
that
just
it
how
was
he grew
part.
up.
Yeah, that's how he grew up, and I didn't know because that's how I like. So even for me, it was a different experience. When I came out to LA and we live in a community, there's like no Puerto Ricans where I live. But he grew up eating Puerto Rican food, and it's he's like, oh, this is not what everybody else is eating. you know.
Yeah. Well, obviously we've talked about your, what you did with Mi Cajita, and then how you're growing and how you've evolved with Refined Media Group. But one thing that I really want to also touch on is like when you're in this, we recently saw Lisette Rios, right, of Chic Influence.
Mhm.
She closed down her agency. Now
Yeah.
she's only doing consulting. Um, and everybody has to do what's best for her. I know, for them, excuse me. And I love Lisa. I think she's
Mhm.
still so incredibly inspiring. But I think that just goes to show how things are changing. Like we've talked about how things are changing. So how do you continue to have, how do you continue to reinvent what you're doing, or do you what you're doing? How do you, maintain how long you've been doing this, or like, how do you continue to shift gear? Are you tired of driving?
I get tired, not gonna lie. But this is a really good question, because I'm Gen X, okay? And
Ditto, girl. Let's go
yeah,
Gen X.
love my generation. Um, Oftentimes my generation can be very stubborn, and uh, I'm not gonna learn this. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not, I think it's very important for you to continue if you're in an industry, and especially if you're in an industry like this one. I don't like media buys. It's not how my brain works to sit there and have to worry about meta ads. But I have to learn it. I had to learn, even if I'm not the one that's going to be doing it every day, I need to learn what it is, how it works. I needed to learn these platforms inside out. Like when I look at TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, they're business tools to me. And I need to learn everything that's going on with them, as tedious as it is. And I work with tons of people that are like, huh, I don't want to do this. I don't, and it shows in the work that they're able to get, because everybody's moving along. And so I think for longevity, I think you constantly need to be learning new things and be open to learning new things, and not have this like, I'm not going to do this, or I think you have to continue to, you don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. Things are moving quickly, things evolve quickly, things change rapidly. Like when the whole thing with TikTok happened, and then everybody was like, oh, what are we going to do now, so I think, like, for example, somebody like we said, I think it's awesome that she's doing something, that she's doing consulting and developing your own IP, making sure that you have your own stuff set up, because anything can change at the drop of a dime. But also at the same time, you need to make sure that you're evolving with the times
Mhm.
as well. And it's exhausting. I'm tired. I'm
Yeah,
tired.
no.
I'm not like yeah, I'm exhausted. I work really long hours. I spend tons of hours on YouTube University, Google University, Chat GPT University. I still take courses. I'm still constantly learning. So I think that that's what you have to do in order to have longevity in your career.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, I come from a communications background, from PR
Mhm.
background, and yeah, like, especially when social media comes into it used to be you would write a press release and send it
Mhm.
out and follow up with, and you still do those things, but it's just so different now.
And I work with a lot of traditionalists. I work with a lot of PR people who are like, they don't know anything about social media. Um, and you can see that their businesses end up getting hit by
Yeah.
that. If you're not understanding, you don't have to be an expert. There's, no way to be an expert on everything, but really need to continue to understand the business side of these
Yeah.
these platforms.
I mean, you got to roll with the times, right? Everything is changing. I remember when I was even doing this, in the early aughts, right? The
Yeah.
early 2010s, and I was still like, okay, we have to create this or we have to create that, because if we don't have like, everybody's going here to find information now. And
Yeah.
if you don't have anything to disseminate that information, it's not impossible to grow. It just becomes harder to grow. But I feel like we're also, tell me what you think, because I feel like we're also in this time of, and the reason I thought of this is because when you were talking about TikTok, is that's how people start building their community or anything. But
Yeah.
the possible, and like, that whole TikTok ban, and who knows what's going to happen now, right?
Yeah.
That I think made people realize, like, I cannot have everything that just lives on here. If this goes away, like, all my stuff goes away because you
Right.
don't own it. So
Mm.
how do you, and I know a lot of people were saying, like, do newsletter, do this, do that, but that's not always it takes a lot for people to take out that time, to take time to carve that out sometimes.
Mhm.
So if people want to have something that they own, right, outside of social media, where do
Mhm.
people go? What do they do?
I do see a lot of value in emails though, in
Mhm.
email marketing. I think a lot of people did end up transitioning to that, and I've seen over the last few years that they are transitioning to that and just having that community. Um, it's still a very strong form of communication. So I do think that that is something that would make sense if you're somebody who enjoys to write and communicate in that way. There's some people that just it's just not what they want to do. So I would always suggest that you have your website, that you have, if you're more into video, to set something up in it. There are other ways that you'd be able to continue to market. If like TikTok went down, just the thing is you have to just see TikTok, Instagram. This is the way I see it. It's like you have your website or your IP. That's your home. That's your real estate. To
Mhm.
me, TikTok, Instagram, those are the coffee shops. It's the boutique. It's where you go and you chit chat. The store might close down, and you'll have to find another avenue. But that's how you have to view it. That's just my opinion on what I think. I think we should all have, if we're trying to do something that we're using these platforms to build a business, you need your IP, you need your real estate first.
And then at what point, like if people are like, okay, I'm ready, like I've been creating content, whatever, I think I'm ready to pitch a brand, or I think I'm ready to do this or that. What are the things that you advise people to do or not do, right? In regards to when they feel like they're ready. Because just because they feel like they're ready may not be that
That
they're
they
actually
are.
ready,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, there are people that I've worked with who it's been a little bit of a challenge to get them to a place that I know a brand will will reach out or work with them. It doesn't always have to do with numbers, but they really do have to work on the engagement. They have to work on building that community. So I would think that somebody's ready when they start having a community of people who trusts them, whether that's 5,000 followers or a million followers. There are people that are vested in what they're saying, and their content is very service oriented. It's showing them either how to live better, something that they're doing that inspires them, something that educates them, even if it's not specifically supposed to be educational, but like makeup, like that's
Mhm.
something that's always been popular because you're educating in a way that's still aesthetic and it's fun and it's also inspiring, and it can be life changing for some women, when they're watching these creators putting on makeup and the transformation. So I think if your content is providing the service and you have people who are going to you and they trust you, that's when you can start saying, okay, I think I'm ready, because the brands are looking at your engagement, they're looking at what people are saying about you, they're looking to see how many of those followers are authentic. And if there's conversation going on, that you're able to do that, because they want to work with people that are going to be aspirational, that are going to speak to their brand in a natural way. So there are a couple of variables. It's not just all like I need to have 500K followers. So it's a couple of things.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, I think
there's one person who has a personal brand who I've worked with, and she has followers, but a lot of her content is very me, 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 and she's struggled to work with brands. And I'm like, well, they're probably not understanding how you can deliver their key messaging, to the community. It just, the content isn't very community building. It was just very like, there's this creator, I forget her name. She calls it like selfish vlogging or like selfish content. I don't know if
uh,
you've seen her.
I think so. I think I've
Yeah,
seen
that
that.
she's like, you're just getting on there, just talking about yourself. Like, okay. Um, yeah, so I think brands are very savvy, and they want to work with people who are like drawing in community.
So speaking of, actually do have another question in regards to that, because obviously with everything that's, I mean, obviously everything that's going on is affecting all of these different things, right?
Mhm,
One thing that I've seen is, and how, and you can speak on maybe how you think brands react to people who are speaking out about what's going on. Because you have some people saying they're not speaking out because they don't want to lose their brand deals. And then you
mhm.
have some people saying, well, money, what? Like, or they're, and then they're saying like money's, they're money is more important than their community, right? On one
Mhm.
hand. And then you have people saying, well, you need to be yourself, you need to be who you are, and the brands who relate to you will come to you. I feel
Mhm.
like how do you navigate that?
A
Because
hot topic. You're bringing
yeah.
up some hot topics now.
I mean, but it's
Um,
what's happening. And you who work with brands, I'm
yeah.
like, where can we get a real answer? I don't want to get an answer from somebody I don't know or trust on social media.
Mhm.
And you being on here, like we've already established, a relationship, but also people, you know, trust when people come on here. So that's why I was like, let me ask Rachel what's going on.
Mhm. So, okay. So you want to know about how the brands are responding to people who may have a very strong point of view.
Yes.
Is that basically and what I'm hearing through the grapevines as far as that's concerned?
Well, yes.
Okay. Okay. Uh there are some brands that I've worked with, and this has been over the years, not new, where I've had to take a deep dive into their social to make sure that there were not any political rants at all. If there were, I had to flag them. They were not going to get the campaign. So that it does exist. It is a reality that if you're on there, um, I do think though that Gen Z is changing a lot of that, and that they're definitely a lot more open, and they use social media in such a way that brands have to understand that these platforms they're going to use these platforms to talk about things happening in the world. Not everything. We're not in the aesthetic pretty Instagram phase that we were, like, a decade ago, where everything was like this perfect, it was like this facade and very Pinterest quality type of content. We have Gen Z now that gets on TikTok, and they're going to tell you their thoughts on Gaza. They're going to tell you their thoughts about the president and what's going on. Um, I think, some brands they're a little cautious about it, but I do think that there's been a lot more flexibility in the creators that they choose, even if they side, with something that may be controversial. So I know that doesn't answer your question, because it really does depend on the brand. But it is a reality,
Yeah.
that some brands will say, well, we're not touching that. And some brands are like, no, we definitely want to work with her. People trust her, and they trust, what her thoughts are on what's going on.
Do you think that which is I agree. I mean, obviously it's not a hard and fast rule because it depends on the
Yeah.
brand and the
But I
people
do
behind
think
the
that
brand.
this younger generation has opened up some doors to those types of topics, those types of conversations.
Mhm.
That it's normalizing it in a way, slowly, but in a way that, you will have some brands that if you're speaking up about something, they're not going to say, oh, well, we don't want to work with her.
Do brands normally put in contracts? Like, is it usually just for that, or is it normally like during the time that you're on contract with us, we don't want you to do this, this, and this? Are those tend do
I
those
haven't
types of
seen
things?
that. I haven't seen that. No.
Well, good. That's good. I mean, I was just wondering because I was like, oh, I wonder if they try and put. I know, like slip in things so you can't voice certain things when they're happening because then I feel like it's like
I do have to let them know.
yeah.
Like, I just want to let you know. I don't want them to say later on that something wasn't flagged. Sometimes they're like, "That's fine," you
Mhm.
know. And now we have this very blurred line with TikTok creators and OnlyFans. I do have to let them know. Like, there have been times where they didn't know that the creator had an OF account, and because
Now, does that tend to make a bigger impact than the other statements that people make of if somebody has an OF tag?
probably just as much as, if it's a brand that's a little bit more on the wholesome side, then yeah, they're probably gonna flag that and say no.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've got to ask you so many things that I know I've been like That's kind of been circulating in my head for a while and everything because I would say, I think ultimately, and tell me if I'm wrong, because you're the
Mhm.
brand expert here. But I think ultimately you have to be yourself, right? You have to be authentic to who you are because I think those things always end up being revealed. And it's
Yeah.
just better to just be your authentic self from the beginning
Mhm.
than it being revealed and you having all of these things and, getting canceled or whatever for all because you just weren't who you were. Be who you are.
You may as well, because if there's creators that they put on, and we've seen it a million times, they put on this whole thing and then it's like something comes out and some scandal, and then yeah, you end up being canceled. But maybe not. Like right now, oh, okay, so like right now, like look at what just happened with Mom Talk. Mom Talk,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, now there's a show. Like the girl went through, what's her name? Taylor? I
Taylor,
don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I
yeah,
didn't pay
like
too much attention to it, but then all of a sudden it was all over my FYP, and then I was like, "Okay, what's happening?" And I
so
don't
the
watch those
reason
type of
why,
reality
yeah,
shows, but yeah.
I end up knowing about all these things because, well, first of all, one of my accounts is Mom 2.0 Summit. And I just remember, when we're looking for like mom communities, and I looked at Mom Talk and I was like, oh, what the heck's going on over here? But the point of that is, they were really popular, and then they had all this scandal, and then everybody was canceled, and then I turn on the TV and I'm like, and now they're on TV. So who the heck knows? Like I don't even know anymore, to be honest
It's
with you.
all
You get
about
canceled
entertainment
one day and then
apparently.
the next day you're like on TV. Like, okay. So, yeah, I'm not suggesting to go that route, but I'm just saying, that I just feel this younger generation gives a lot more room also for redemption, and for you to reframe your story. I just think that
Yeah.
when I say that, it's just because I would love to see what's going to happen now with some of the stuff going on with my generation. Like my generation right now, we're in the mud, like the P Diddy, like we're just like, I'm like, damn, like my generation really screwed up. But I'm like, what? I just feel like watch it turn around, like watch it turn
Yeah.
around,
Well,
like
I'm gonna fight for our generation a little bit because I feel like so often because I wasn't a latchkey kid. My mom, we had the good fortune of like, especially back then, even in San Diego, like my dad worked and my mom was able to stay home with us. He made enough money for my mom to stay home with us. But still, like being the oldest daughter, I still, my parents would leave for vacation or go to Vegas for weekends and this and that. And my grandpa, who was in his 80s, was quote unquote babysitting us, right? But it was really me in,
Yeah.
fifth, sixth grade,
Mhm.
babysitting my sisters and my grandpa,
Mhm.
right? So I feel like we were so consumed of what was happening in our own family,
Yeah.
or we were out playing with our friends, that we didn't pay attention to some of these other things, or we didn't know like what mental health was. We didn't know what. So I'm not, wait, let me make it clear. I am not defending P. Diddy. Like that man did not get,
No, I'm just saying, but I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
we are in, like, I just feel like
our
he's not the only
generation's in
one.
the
We've just
news
been
right
on the
now.
spotlight that I'm just like, dang, like all that was going on. Well, okay.
That's
We're
what I mean,
not in the
because
best
we like
light
always
right
just
now.
minded our own business. We're like, I don't give a fuck about you, right? Like that's why I think, but uh, but yeah, I think that Gen Z has definitely been like, nah, we're not doing this. We're not
They're
gonna do
not.
this.
They're
But you
like,
know
that's
why?
toxic. That's this. That's
Because
that.
Gen X are the parents of Gen Z, and we're
Hmm.
like, they hit you, hit them back.
Yeah.
They like, you know what I mean? That's how we grew up, right?
Yeah.
Somebody bullies you, if they
Mhm.
touch you, you can touch them back, right? It was,
There's like, there's also a flip side that happened with Gen X raising Gen Z, and that Gen Z, they're considered the everyone wins a trophy generation too.
yeah,
So I think because so many of us were latchkey kids, we overcompensated with our own children, and so you have these kids now that They say that they're lazier, and but others will say that it's because they actually have options and they actually have boundaries, and they're actually like, no, like I'm not going to work this job, or I'm not going to do this. Something here that I have to navigate a lot, because I do have that Gen X mentality that I'm like, at your age, I was like, I was
Yeah.
in New York. I was like in the snow, taking 3 buses to school. Like I have, all the stories. My
And your
son's
son
like,
is Gen
well,
Z?
yes, yeah,
My
and he's
nephews are Gen Z, and I
yeah.
have an Alpha Gen nephew.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll wait to see what happens there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, it's just been a really big learning curve for me, not only having them here, because I have my sister here who's also Gen Z. My father's big gap between the two of us. But and also what I'm seeing just online and in working, I have people on the team that are Gen Z, and the boundaries they have with work is, pretty not Gen X. I'm like, what do you mean you're not available
But
now?
has
So
it
I've
helped
had to
you?
learn.
Has
It's
it helped you?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I'm good, girl,
yeah.
because you shouldn't be working 24/7.
Exactly. Nor should you expect other people to be working 24/7, who's
Yeah.
working with you. So I think, I've learned a lot, and that conversation has extended itself throughout social media, and they have their point of view. So naturally brands in the industry have to start changing and evolving to go along with who is their consumer right now.
No, no, totally. I agree. And it makes me hopeful that you still have brands who are like, no, we're still putting money into this. Like because it unfortunately it just feels like corporations are and even the government, they're putting value on who we are as people, right?
Mhm.
Um,
But I was told by, let me tell you, I spoke with a huge beauty brand 2 weeks ago. They said, absolutely, we're putting money into Latinas in beauty. I spoke with a huge car brand, not Kia, another huge car brand, and they told me to not put in DEI or any multicultural language in my pitch. So,
wow.
you know, yeah.
Dang. But does that mean that that's not what they want, or they will still include it, but
Yeah, the way that
want
I
the
positioned the
language?
pitch was, it was all multicultural. I just didn't say it, but it was in all the pictures, it was in all the slides. Like you know exactly where I'm going
Yeah.
with this. I presented all the data. Um, I even presented the data on why they're struggling with sales, and how maybe looking at this picture over here, maybe something that they should think about. So we'll see. I mean, even if I don't land the pitch, I definitely try to get the message across.
Yeah.
You know?
You can tell me offline.
Yeah,
I know you can't put it
I
on
know.
here, but you can always put it offline.
You're gonna be like, let's what? So tell me.
No, sometimes I understand the position that you're in and everything because you work with brands, but I think sometimes that's frustrating people because they're like, we want to know because we want to know who we need to support. Do you think that just by looking at, like, for example, do you know the company Irvine Company? So they're basically almost all apartment complexes in Irvine, California, and they have several they have some in LA, they have some in San Diego, and it's one of the man who used to own it. I think he's since passed. His name is Donald. So they're like he's way richer than the Cheeto in charge, way richer, right? But he doesn't brag. He was never braggadocious about it. You never saw him on the news. He never like whatever. But I worked on a contract basis with them for 6 months, and I had to create a whole new like campaign for recruitment.
Mhm.
So the first thing I did was go to their website, and their website was so beige, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Very beige across, right? There wasn't much diversity, there wasn't anything. And then when I started working there, I noticed that within the building, there was actually a lot of diversity. And I
Mhm.
was like, if you guys want the best qualified people, you need to cast your net out to a wider net. And
Yeah.
that you need to show people that there's a place for them here.
Mhm.
So when we were choosing people, we were getting people from different departments to be part of the branding, actual employees. And then I remember seeing one girl who was upstairs and she wore hijab. And I was like, we need her in this campaign as well.
Mhm.
And, long story short, it was beautiful because we had people from across communities of color. Trend
Mhm.
alert, right? What do we do?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
you saw people and the girl who had a hijab, we went to lunch and she started crying, saying, "Thank you for including me. This is the
Mhm.
first time I've ever felt like like somebody really wanted to include me as a hijab wearing woman in part of this." And I was like, "Girl, of course. Like we need to show that there's strength in all of us. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you're wearing a hijab or not. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
like there's a place for you here."
Mhm.
And it ended up being a very successful recruitment campaign and everything in there, but that just shows like how important it is, right? And how people want to see themselves reflected.
Yeah.
So even if the language isn't being used, if the people and the images are still being included, that
Mhm.
says a lot. So that's why, but I also think that's why people want to know like who these, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just, I know this. I think that's why people, when you see those stories on TikTok about this person or this brand or that brand, people are like, who is it? Because they
Yeah.
want to know, like, is this a brand we should support? So
Mhm.
coming from the outside, what are the things people should look for without saying names,
Mhm.
right? I'm just talking generally. What are
Mhm.
the things that you think people should look for in regards to, does this brand support my values, my community? Or, I mean, obviously all large brands ultimately they're ultimately about the bottom line. But how do we know if we can trust the brand, like a brand that we want to purchase from?
So I will say, because I see the reports coming in for the different brands and where they're spending their money, there are a lot of brands that are still supporting multicultural, like a lot of them. It's just not framed the same way,
Mhm.
like it used to be. So I do see it every Friday. I get it in my inbox. Who's spending money on what? And there still are out there. I think when you have the ones that are like the targets in that situation, those are like the bigger brands that, are part of everyone's everyday language, because so many people go to Target, but there's so many food brands and makeup brands that maybe you don't hear about every day until you're like, oh yeah, I know, that brand. So it is a little hard to say. I would say that if you want to support the brands, there is public information out there, that will tell you what they've spent on who. And I can tell, I get like the media buy, information too, and the creators they're working with, and I still see a lot of brands still pushing for it. So I would say, there are brands that sold out, yes, but if you really feel strongly about it, then for sure, I would do a search for them. It's
Go
just
to
I'm
Google
trying to think of
University.
like, and Google University, because the thing that I get is, from a platform called Winmo, and you have to pay for that. It's like an industry, platform, and in there I get these alerts all the time, like so and so, obviously like Fenty, clearly, but a lot of companies are also investing money in multicultural and diverse communities still. Yeah, they just can't use the terms in the same way anymore. Um, but I would do a search. You can find out who removed their multicultural division if you really want to know. You might have to pay for some platforms to find out, but there are. I have another platform I use called Apollo, and I did a search in there, and there were a lot of missing multicultural, titles that used to be there. But they didn't lose their job. They were moved to other departments. So definitely requires a little bit of homework, if you
Yeah.
really want to know who's really spending money, but some they're still spending.
Girl, like you just dropped so much knowledge that I know people are gonna appreciate
I
so
mean, I'm
hard.
sorry, like I can't, like say something specific because I
No,
mean,
no, no,
I'm
it's
also still
okay.
in my search and just
Yeah.
wondering, like, because I want to know, I want to know too. Like, I'm not going to waste my time reaching out to this brand if they're not going to look our way. So I'm always looking like, who is supporting us? Who should I be looking at? Who should I be pitching?
Hmm.
So I look at those platforms like Winmo and Apollo, those are industry platforms, but a lot of that information is out there too. There's also the like the Nielsen reports, and if you really want to know, who's supporting who,
Oh,
that
the
data's
Nielsen
out there.
reports. I've gone
Yeah,
on
the
Nielsen
data's
and
out
gotten
there.
those
Hmm.
before. No, but you have. I mean, without giving specifics, because I know you can't. Girl, I know you can't. So I'm not gonna make you do that. Yeah, I would not ever do that to
It's
you.
like right here, I know one. I'm just like, look, I can't.
but but what you've said is so helpful, and the fact that you've had to kind of readjust, kind of change your landscape, trying to pivot.
Hmm.
um it just shows how hard you work and what you believe in, and it's so appreciated by so many. I know that. I mean, I appreciate the work that you do, even if I, you know, am not at every event that you're at or whatever. I think you're just doing a rad job, and I appreciate you like
And there's a
do
lot of,
these things.
we're doing campaigns that are online. They're not. Am I like twisted? Did I like move myself?
Now you are
Okay,
there. You
sorry
go. You're
about
good.
that.
That's okay.
There are lots of regular media buys and creator campaigns that we do as well. That you don't even know that we're behind those. And I'm always pushing not just like just Latino or multicultural, but I also have my own interest in pushing urban communities, urban entrepreneurs. Just being from New York. So we did this campaign with a telecom brand, and it was very centered on um, Latino entrepreneurs in New York. I was like, I want to go in the Bronx. I want to go in Brooklyn. Like LA, I'm sorry, there's a lot of opportunities in LA. I want to see somebody in, a Dominican entrepreneur in Brooklyn or
Well, bring it to
yeah,
San Diego too,
yeah,
because we get forgotten. Everybody's all about LA. Every event happens in
right,
LA. And I'm like,
exactly,
we are the second largest city in the state. We are
yeah.
15. Like,
It's
come
always
on.
here.
Where's the San Diego love? So when you came to San Diego, I was so excited.
I know, and I felt that energy from the creators there that they were so it was to me like out of all the events I've done, like I really felt like the creators that were there, and even like Jesus went, who has a huge platform.
Yeah.
It was just like nice to feel like people were like, "This is cool." Like something was brought to my town, you know, and we felt that energy, and Kia felt it, and yeah, it was a totally different experience than when we do. Not the LA events are great, like we have great people all the time, but I really felt the love when we went to San Diego.
Yeah. We get forgotten because LA although it's only a couple, 2, 3 hours away, depending on traffic. That's what we always have to say, right? Depending on traffic. But it is a totally different vibe down here versus
Hmm.
LA. And this
Yeah,
is where I grew up. And I have so much pride for San Diego County,
yeah,
that it always sometimes makes me so sad that more people don't come down here.
and it's
Um,
beautiful down there. There's like so many things that can be done down there. So many events. Like when we were looking up different ideas, I was like, oh, there's like so many cool things to do. But yeah, I know
yeah.
it's all here.
Well, before we end, speaking of, I just wanted to share this with you because I thought it was funny. And if there's anybody else in Southern California that knows this commercial, have you heard? I don't know if they have it in LA. They definitely have it down here in San Diego. It's an AT&T radio commercial where the guy is like, calling his girlfriend who lives in Tijuana, and he's like, they're like, "Oh, I miss you, I miss you. Oh, that song makes me miss you more." And then it's like, next stop, Tijuana bus station or whatever, and And then he's outside. He's like, look outside. And she's like, you're here. Oh my God. My husband, first of all, hates that commercial with a passion. Because he's like, what? They're at the bus stop in TJ. Why are they not speaking Spanish? Like, why are they saying it in English? Oh, they act like they're so far apart. We're 15 minutes from the border. Like they're just everything about that
I
commercial.
haven't seen it.
Oh my gosh. It
You
is.
have to send it to me.
Yeah, I'll have to get the audio. I've never seen a video version, but it's a radio commercial. Next time I hear it, I'm gonna have to record it and send it. But it's just when you were saying that, it just brought that to my head, and I just wanted to share it because apparently he was talking to somebody else, and they're like, "I hate that commercial too." And it's one of those things when we say don't pander to us, right? It's a little, and I worked for AT&T Wireless for like 8 years. It
Mhm.
definitely is a little pandering. It could be like it could be a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
But just the way that it is, it cracks me up. I think it's hilarious because it bugs my
There's a
husband.
lot of that, and yeah, pandering to the community, and I would like to not see that. It's
Yeah.
doesn't You don't need to do that. But brands still have a way to go, you know.
Yes, exactly. Rachel, so before we close, what is next? What haven't I gotten to that you want to make sure you share what's next for you or Refined Media Group or anything else?
Well, I have had to restructure, but in the restructure, there's been lots of just like aha moments. So you will see a lot more of the services being put out there, a lot more content being put out there. Also, my personal branding. As much as I like just lecture people on what they're supposed to do. I'm like, you know what? Let me start doing it myself. And I've chatted with you
Yeah.
on the DM, and I'm just like, when are people doing this? Because I know it's just like so time consuming. But for sure, you will be seeing more of what we're doing and what we're working on. So expect
So
that,
make
and
sure to
also
go
some
find
brand
Refined Media Group.
campaigns too that are coming up that now
Oh.
I can't say them, which sucks. But
Do you have
yeah.
people when it comes to the brand campaigns? Are you always the person reaching out, or do you ever do like I've seen some agencies do call outs
Mhm.
for, hey, we're looking for people to work with. Send me a DM, send me a message, send me an email, whatever. Or
Like
do you
creators are part of the team.
well, like I saw one earlier saying like we're part of this agency and we're looking for more creators to work with. I'm assuming it's a pretty new agency.
Oh.
Um,
Well, the thing with creators is just because I've been doing this since 2011.
yeah.
So we have a huge database of creators, that we have as our go-to. And as far as the team goes, I don't put a call out because I look at people and I look at their work, and I actually have my own little, like, they're on my radar list of people that when I do send out pitches, I have reached out to them like, hey, I was thinking of you for this pitch. I think you'd be perfect. So I'm just more observing and gathering that information because I feel like, I've been doing this since 2011, and I've worked with some of the best video, photography, writing community like there is,
Yeah.
that can write in English and Spanish and, different languages. So I haven't done that because it's just been a lot of referral or word of mouth.
Well, mi gente, make sure to follow Rachel. Make sure to follow Refined Media Group. And I'm sure you found this out. I found it very helpful. I think like I said, you shared a lot of knowledge on what you're doing. And, you know, thank you. Thank you. I always love talking to you, Rachel. We always have great
Yes. And
conversations.
next time you come up, let me know so we can, next time I go down, I'll let you know. And then we can,
Yes,
yeah.
for sure. For sure. Well, until next time, mi gente. Hola, mi gente. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos.